In the early hours of an ordinary day, investigators uncovered a case that seemed almost impossible to believe. It wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It wasn't the work of a stranger lurking in the shadows. According to prosecutors, the alleged plot began with someone who knew the intended victim better than almost anyone else. For years, millions of television viewers had watched Aaron Goodwin chase ghosts through abandoned prisons, haunted hotels, and forgotten buildings across America. As one of the familiar faces of paranormal television, he had built a reputation for confronting fear head-on. Danger was part of the job. Every episode promised another mystery, another dark location, another encounter with the unknown. But the greatest threat to his life would not come from a supposedly haunted building. Investigators would later allege that it emerged from a far more ordinary place, his own personal life. What followed was a chain of digital messages, financial records, and recorded communications that investigators say revealed an alleged murder-for-hire conspiracy stretching across state lines. The accusations stunned fans, dominated national headlines, and transformed what had appeared to be a private marriage into one of the most shocking criminal investigations involving a television personality in recent years. As detectives pieced together the evidence, every new discovery raised disturbing questions. How could an apparently stable relationship become the focus of such extraordinary allegations? What evidence convinced investigators that the threat was real? And how close did the alleged plan come to becoming a deadly reality? This is the story of Aaron Goodwin, a television investigator whose career revolved around exploring the unexplained, but who suddenly found himself at the center of a very real criminal investigation, a case built not on paranormal claims but on digital evidence, law enforcement surveillance, and allegations that would ultimately be tested in a court of law. This is the Aaron Goodwin case. Aaron Goodwin's path to television fame was anything but conventional. Long before millions of viewers recognized him from paranormal investigations, he lived a relatively ordinary life, far removed from the spotlight. Friends and colleagues described him as approachable, hardworking, and willing to take on challenges that others might avoid. Born in the United States, Goodwin developed an interest in photography and videography at an early age. Rather than seeking fame in front of the camera, he initially preferred working behind it. His technical skills eventually opened doors in television production, where he gained experience operating cameras and documenting events with a calm, observant eye. That career path would change dramatically when he became involved in a paranormal documentary project alongside investigators Zach Bagans and researcher Nick Groff. The success of that early production eventually led to the creation of Ghost Adventures, a television series that premiered in 2008 and quickly became one of the most recognizable programs in paranormal entertainment. Within the series, Goodwin's role evolved beyond that of a cameraman. His willingness to enter dark, abandoned locations, often alone and carrying only recording equipment, made him a familiar face to viewers around the world. Whether exploring historic prisons, deserted hospitals, aging asylums, or reportedly haunted homes, he became known for remaining composed even during tense investigations. Unlike some television personalities who actively sought attention, Goodwin generally projected a more grounded and relatable image. He often served as the audience's perspective, reacting naturally to unexpected events while documenting the investigations with professionalism. His sense of humor and genuine personality helped build a loyal fan base over many years. As the popularity of Ghost Adventures grew, Aaron Goodwin became an established figure in paranormal television. The show's success led to numerous seasons, special investigations, and international recognition. Fans followed not only the investigations themselves, but also the friendships among the cast members, who appeared to share years of trust built through countless hours spent filming in challenging environments. Away from television, Goodwin occasionally shared glimpses of his personal life through interviews and social media. Like many public figures, he balanced a demanding filming schedule with life outside the cameras. While his career was highly visible, much of his private life remained just that, private. Eventually, Aaron entered a new chapter when he began a serious relationship that would lead to marriage. To fans, the relationship appeared happy and stable. Public photographs showed vacations, celebrations, and moments of everyday life. Friends, fans, and colleagues had no reason to believe he was allegedly the intended target of a criminal conspiracy. The investigation only changed direction when Florida correctional authorities confiscated an inmate's contraband cell phone during an unrelated prison investigation. As investigators examined the contents of the device, they reportedly discovered communications that immediately attracted attention. The messages referenced Aaron Goodwin by name and described what authorities believed was an active murder-for-hire plot. The information was forwarded to law enforcement in Nevada, where Aaron and Victoria Goodwin lived. Detectives began reviewing the communications alongside financial records and other evidence to determine whether the alleged plan represented a credible threat. As investigators gathered additional evidence, they concluded that immediate action was necessary. On March 6, 2025, Victoria Goodwin was arrested in Clark County, Nevada. She was booked on charges of solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Authorities alleged that rather than pursuing a divorce, she had attempted to arrange for her husband's killing through intermediaries. Victoria denied intending for Aaron to actually be killed, reportedly telling investigators she had only been fantasizing about life without him. For Aaron, the news came without warning. According to later reports, he was devastated when law enforcement informed him of the allegations. By all public appearances, he believed his marriage had been stable. The accusations left him shocked and struggling to understand how events had reached such an extraordinary point. Within days of the arrest, Aaron filed for divorce, stating that there was no possibility of reconciliation. The criminal investigation and the collapse of his marriage had unfolded almost simultaneously, forever changing both his personal life and his public image. What had begun as a hidden exchange of messages had now become a nationally reported criminal case. The next phase of the investigation would focus on one critical question: what evidence had convinced detectives that the alleged murder plot was real? As investigators dug deeper into the communications they had recovered, they began assembling what prosecutors described as the heart of the case: an alleged murder-for-hire plot that unfolded through digital conversations rather than face-to-face meetings. According to the criminal complaint, the investigation centered on a series of messages exchanged between Victoria Goodwin and Grant Amato, a Florida inmate already serving a life sentence for the murders of his parents and brother. Authorities alleged that the two developed an online relationship while Amato was incarcerated. Over time, investigators said their conversation shifted from casual exchanges to discussions about Aaron Goodwin and the possibility of having him killed. Prosecutors alleged that Victoria shared details about Aaron's work schedule, including his frequent travel for filming episodes of Ghost Adventures. Because Aaron often spent days away from home investigating locations across the country, detectives believed this information was intended to help identify opportunities when he would be vulnerable. The alleged plan did not involve Amato carrying out the crime himself. Instead, investigators claimed he acted as a middleman, communicating with someone outside the prison who could allegedly arrange the killing. One message cited in court documents reportedly asked whether the intended victim was asleep right now, while another discussed the possibility of carrying out the murder during one of Aaron's business trips. Investigators interpreted these conversations as evidence that the alleged conspiracy had progressed beyond fantasy and into active planning. Financial records became another key part of the investigation. According to prosecutors, detectives traced payments totaling more than $11,000 that they believed were connected to the alleged murder-for-hire arrangement. Court documents stated that an initial payment had already been sent, with additional money allegedly intended to follow after the crime was completed. To investigators, the combination of digital messages and financial transactions suggested that the alleged conspiracy had moved beyond hypothetical discussions. Authorities also examined phone records, banking information, and electronic communications to determine whether the individuals involved had taken concrete steps toward carrying out the alleged plan. Each piece of evidence was compared against the timeline established through recovered messages. When detectives interviewed Victoria Goodwin following her arrest, she denied wanting Aaron to be killed. According to police reports, she acknowledged communicating with Grant Amato, but claimed she had been fantasizing about leaving her marriage rather than seriously planning a murder. She disputed the prosecution's interpretation of the conversations and denied intending for anyone to harm her husband. Investigators, however, reached a different conclusion. Based on the totality of the evidence, including the messages, financial records, and the alleged arrangements discussed in the communications, law enforcement determined there was probable cause to charge her with solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder. At this stage, it is important to remember that these allegations form the basis of the criminal case. Under the American legal system, every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in court or through a guilty plea. For Aaron Goodwin, the allegations were devastating. According to people close to him, he had been completely unaware that investigators believed such a plot existed. Learning that his wife had been accused of orchestrating an alleged murder-for-hire scheme left him shocked, heartbroken, and struggling to reconcile the accusations with the life he thought he knew. As prosecutors prepared their case, detectives turned their attention to strengthening the evidence, carefully documenting every message, every payment, and every communication that they believed connected the alleged conspiracy from its earliest discussions to the moment law enforcement intervened. The investigation that ultimately led to Victoria Goodwin's arrest did not begin with Aaron Goodwin reporting suspicious behavior. Instead, it emerged from an unrelated prison investigation hundreds of miles away in Florida. Correctional officials conducting a search inside the prison where Grant Amato was serving a life sentence recovered a contraband cell phone. Such devices are prohibited inside correctional facilities, and investigators routinely examine them for evidence of additional crimes or security threats. As forensic analysts reviewed the phone's contents, they reportedly discovered a series of messages that immediately stood out. The conversations referenced Aaron Goodwin by name and discussed what authorities believed was a plan to have him killed. Because the alleged target lived in Nevada, Florida investigators shared the information with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Detectives in Nevada then began working with their counterparts in Florida to verify the communications and determine whether the threat was genuine. The first priority was authentication. Investigators sought to confirm who had participated in the conversations, whether the messages were genuine, and whether they were supported by other forms of evidence. Digital forensic specialists examined the communications alongside account information, timestamps, and other electronic records to establish a reliable timeline. Detectives also reviewed financial records. According to the arrest report, investigators identified transactions they believed were consistent with payments discussed in the alleged murder-for-hire scheme. Court documents alleged that more than $11,000 had been promised and that an initial payment had already been transferred. Prosecutors argued that these financial records strengthened the case by providing evidence beyond the text messages themselves. Law enforcement also analyzed Aaron Goodwin's travel schedule. Because his work on ghost adventures regularly took him away from home, detectives compared filming dates, travel plans, and the timing of the alleged communications. Prosecutors later alleged that the conversations referenced periods when Aaron would be traveling, suggesting that his work schedule had become part of the alleged planning. Investigators then interviewed Aaron Goodwin. According to reports, Aaron told detectives he had no knowledge of any plot against him. He reportedly expressed complete shock upon learning of the allegations and stated that he believed his marriage had been stable. Detectives found no indication that he had participated in or been aware of the alleged conspiracy. Victoria Goodwin was also questioned after her arrest. During the interview, she acknowledged communicating with Grant Amato but denied intending to have her husband murdered. According to police reports, she characterized the conversations as fantasy and said she did not believe anyone would actually carry out such an act. Investigators, however, concluded that the combination of the messages, financial transactions, and surrounding circumstances supported criminal charges. The evidence collected by detectives was not based on a single text message or one isolated event. Instead, prosecutors alleged that the case was built from multiple pieces of evidence working together: digital communications, financial records, prison intelligence, electronic forensic analysis, and interviews with those involved. Individually, each piece provided only part of the picture. Together, investigators argued they demonstrated an alleged conspiracy that had advanced beyond mere discussion. With the evidence assembled, detectives presented their findings to prosecutors. After reviewing the investigative file, authorities determined there was sufficient probable cause to move forward. Victoria Goodwin was formally charged with solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder, setting the stage for criminal proceedings that would soon draw national attention. As news of the case spread, the investigation shifted from the work of detectives behind closed doors to a matter of public record. Court filings, hearings, and legal arguments would now determine how the evidence would be challenged, interpreted, and ultimately resolved under the justice system. By the time investigators believed they had assembled a sufficient body of evidence, the case had moved beyond intelligence gathering and into the criminal justice system. For detectives, the next step was no longer determining whether an alleged conspiracy existed. It was taking action before any harm could come to the intended victim. On March 6, 2025, officers with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department arrested Victoria Goodwin in Clark County, Nevada. The arrest followed weeks of coordination between Nevada investigators and Florida authorities who had shared evidence recovered from Grant Amato's contraband cell phone. Victoria was booked into the Clark County Detention Center on 2 felony charges: solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The solicitation charge alleged that she had intentionally sought to have another person kill Aaron Goodwin. The conspiracy charge alleged that she had entered into an agreement with at least one other individual to commit that crime. Under Nevada law, these are separate offenses, each carrying significant potential penalties if proven in court. According to the arrest report, investigators believed the evidence, including digital communications, financial records, and information obtained during the investigation, provided probable cause for both charges. News of the arrest spread quickly. Within hours, national news organizations, entertainment outlets, and true crime publications began reporting that the wife of Ghost Adventures star Aaron Goodwin had been accused of participating in an alleged murder-for-hire plot. For many fans of the long-running television series, the allegations came as a complete surprise. Aaron Goodwin, who had spent years appearing on television as a paranormal investigator, suddenly found himself at the center of a very real criminal case. According to reports, he was devastated after learning of the allegations and had believed his marriage was stable. Family, friends, and supporters expressed shock as details continued to emerge through court filings and law enforcement statements. Following her arrest, Victoria Goodwin appeared before the court for the initial stages of the criminal process. At these early hearings, the court addressed matters such as custody status, legal representation, and the scheduling of future proceedings. As with any criminal defendant, Victoria was presumed innocent unless and until the allegations could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in court or resolved through other legal proceedings. Meanwhile, Grant Amato's alleged role also came under renewed scrutiny. Already serving a life sentence in a Florida prison for the 2019 murders of his parents and brother, Amato was identified by investigators as the alleged intermediary in the purported murder-for-hire scheme. Although he was already incarcerated, the communications recovered from his contraband cell phone became a central piece of the investigation. Prosecutors alleged that Amato acted as the link between Victoria Goodwin and the person who was allegedly expected to carry out the killing. Investigators argued that his communications helped facilitate discussions, relay information, and move the alleged plan forward. As prosecutors prepared their case, they continued organizing thousands of pages of digital evidence, financial records, investigative reports, and witness statements for disclosure to the defense. The legal battle was only beginning. The arrests had brought the allegations into public view, but the ultimate outcome would depend not on headlines or public opinion, but on what could be established in court. The next phase of the case would determine whether the evidence led to a trial or whether the proceedings would take a different path through the criminal justice system. Following her arrest in March 2025, Victoria Goodwin made her initial appearances before the Clark County District Court in Nevada. As in any criminal proceeding, these early hearings focused on procedural matters. including the formal filing of charges, legal representation, and the conditions of her release while the case moved forward. Unlike many murder-for-hire cases of previous decades, investigators did not rely primarily on eyewitnesses or undercover recordings. Instead, the prosecution's case was built through electronic communications, financial transactions, forensic analysis of digital devices, and cooperation between correctional officials and multiple law enforcement agencies across state lines. It was a reminder that in today's world, digital footprints often tell a story long before suspects realize they are leaving one behind. The investigation also highlighted another reality. Some of the most significant criminal cases begin entirely by chance. Had correctional officers not discovered a contraband cell phone during a routine prison investigation, authorities might never have uncovered the alleged conspiracy when they did. A seemingly unrelated prison search ultimately became the first link in a chain of events that investigators say prevented a planned killing from ever taking place. For the public, the story served as a sobering reminder that appearances can be deeply misleading. From the outside, Aaron Goodwin appeared to have achieved remarkable success. He had a long-running television career, loyal fans, close friendships, and what many believed was a happy marriage. Few could have imagined that behind the scenes, prosecutors would later allege that his life was in danger. Cases like this challenge common assumptions about trust, relationships, and the hidden struggles that may exist behind carefully maintained public images. At the same time, it is important to recognize the role of the justice system. The investigation followed established legal procedures, evidence was collected, charges were filed, the defendant was afforded legal representation, and the case concluded through a guilty plea accepted by the court. While the headlines focused on the shocking allegations, the outcome ultimately rested on the judicial process rather than public opinion. Today, Aaron Goodwin continues moving forward with his life and career after one of the most traumatic experiences imaginable. Although the events surrounding the case will likely remain part of his public story, they do not define the entirety of his life. For those who followed the investigation, the Aaron Goodwin case remains a powerful example of how betrayal can emerge where it is least expected, how technology has transformed criminal investigations, and how ordinary discoveries can uncover extraordinary crimes. Sometimes the most chilling true crime stories do not begin with violence. They begin with a conversation, a message, a hidden phone, and a decision that changes lives forever. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary informative, consider subscribing for more carefully researched true crime stories based on verified facts, court records, and official investigations. Until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember that the most unsettling mysteries are often the ones hidden in plain sight.